But if she was absent, okay, authoritarian, all of the control is in the teacher or parent. What happens to children like that when they get off on their own? Yes, often. They command and demand rather than teach and guide. They do not allow for questioning or evaluating. You do as I say, not as I do. They use guilt. My grandmother was really good at, we would stop by her house after church on Sunday morning. See, I went to church with my grandmother on Sabbath and my mom and stepdad on Sunday. So I was the best churched kid in town because I had church school all week long, Sabbath school, Sunday school, yeah. So, but she would say, well, you know, I really need help with this because I don't have a man around, and never stopped her. She was about this tall. She built her own house and everything else, but she was really good at getting people to help her do things. She would call whatever new pastor in town, get him to come over, and she would have my stepdad come over and do things like change light bulbs and things that were really hard because she was like 4'11" tall, and she would use guilt sometimes to do that. Authoritarian, wait a minute, using God to control? Isn't having God in your life a good thing? Why is this using God to control? Say again? Sounds very Catholic. Okay. Young people leave because they think we are. Okay. That God is watching, you know, you better watch out. You better not cry. You know, because he's coming and he's going to get you. It was my first year teaching in public school, and one of my jobs at the end of the day was to walk with the walkers. That's the children that lived in the apartment complexes near the school. We would walk them up the sidewalk to the edge of the school property where their parents would come and walk them home. And we were waiting in line one day when this very distraught first grader came up to me and, Miss, teacher, he said something bad about God. And I said, you believe in God? Little boy said, yeah. I said, Do you think God is very powerful? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think God can take care of himself? Yeah. That wasn't the response I was looking for. Yeah, God's going to get you, he said to his friend. What I was trying to avoid was having the little boy who believed in God start a fist fight with the other kid. But I wasn't reckoning on his reasoning. And he looks up at me and he looks at the other kid and he says, God's gonna get you. Using God to control. Denying feelings and problems. Rigidly enforcing rules and regulations. You don't cry when you get a shot at the doctors. That didn't hurt. I bit my tongue. I did not say to my grandmother what I thought about saying, which was, it didn't hurt you, but it did hurt me. Rigidly enforcing rules and regulations. You must always have your shoelaces tied. My stepdad had that rule. I used to take the shoelaces out of my shoes and pretend they were moccasins and I was an Indian princess. He didn't like that. Rigidly enforcing rules and regulations results in extremely low self-concepts, low self-respect, and low self-confidence. Rejection of parents' values and religion, or the opposite, spineless conformists who have no trust. They just do what they're told and count off the days until they can leave. A healthy family or a healthy classroom. Members trust, affirm, and support each other. My son's 5th grade teacher was really good at this. One of the students in his room had Down syndrome, and she was being mainstreamed, inclusive ed, with all the others, and another student was severely autistic, and he was being mainstreamed with all the others. And Mr. Mulnowney was really good at making the whole class feel like we are a community. We are neighbors. We don't pick on, and we don't allow anyone else to pick on our classmates. And he built a very strong community. In a healthy family or a healthy classroom, we listen and communicate supportively. We respect each member and their privacy. We share responsibility for the family. We laugh and play together. Yes, it's okay for teachers to laugh. We have a deep religious core where God is the center of everything. Some people look at church schools and think that the only difference between church school and public school is you pray at the beginning of the day and you have a Bible class. And that's not the goal of our church schools. We are to have everything with a biblical foundation. We admit problems and we get help. That's important. This results in warm relationships, strong sense of self-respect and self-confidence. Self-esteem is positive, and we appreciate the values that we learn. We have a positive view of God. We can trust God, and we can trust other people. Now comes the fun time. Would you, Mr. Gary, would you please give everybody one of these cards? I thought about making you get up and move, but then I remembered I'm dealing with adults, and maybe you don't have as many wiggles as others. We're going to play a game, a quiz game, called Kahoot. And any minute now. Yeah, go away. Okay. Here's this. My Kahoots. Anybody here ever played a Kahoot? Good, I get to teach you something new. All right. This is called the Values of Self-Respect and Self-Control. Do you like the dog? I thought he was cute. Okay, I'll put on the annoying music just so you can hear what it sounds like. Well, maybe. They have changed the way it looks. Now, we are going to do a classic one. Okay, and because all of you don't have smartphones, that's why you have the ABCD cards. So I'm going to join this Kahoot, and then we'll get a consensus and we'll put an answer in. So if all of you had devices, I would have you go to kahoot.it and join electronically. But in the absence of one-to-one devices, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, sort of. Sorry. one of my college students one day decided to put in Republicans rule. And I said, we are not doing political statements in class. So therefore, you have to get a new name. So here's question 1. Your card's there now. You're going to hold up which one you think it is. Answer is A, B, C, D. The question is, what is self-concept? Is it, I forgot these aren't A, B, C, D. Okay, so A is the red one, B is the blue one, C is the yellow one, and D is the green one. Okay? So C, I should have given it more time. I didn't answer quickly enough. The answer was C. Who we think we are is the self-concept. Okay? And does this work? Yes. Okay, so what is self-esteem? What is self-esteem? We're going to have the same questions, the same answers. What do you think the answer is? A. A? How we feel. That is correct. When we got it in time this time. Good job. Okay. What is self-respect? Here are your choices. What do we have? I'm seeing some B's. Up. All right. It is C, and I was wrong. God is an essential part of who we are. God is an essential part of who we are. Which one of these goes with that? And the answer is God plus me equals a whole person. Good job. Self-esteem is composed of which element or elements? I believe this one has more than one answer. Okay, we've got an A, B. We'll try A. A was correct. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they were actually all correct. Trick question. Significance is characterized by what? What characterizes significance? A, B, C, D. Okay. Yes. And that, let's see, does it have a back button? Can I go back? No. Okay. Competence is characterized by what? What constitutes competence? Correct. Need to perform well on tasks. Virtue is characterized by what? D. Feeling good about doing what is right. All right. Power is characterized by okay. A. Good. Characteristics of authoritarianism include which one? Mm-hmm. D. Good. Healthy family system is characterized by C. Share responsibility. Okay. More characteristics of authoritarian style include all right, A. There we go. Because it has a check mark on it.
I'm putting it based on what the cards are that I'm seeing. If we were doing this in a place where we all had a one-to-one device, you'd be pushing on your tablet or computer or smartphone the answer. It shows because it has a check mark. The check mark means it's right. It is. It doesn't appear until after. I'm inputting the answer on my iPad. Okay, let's go to the next question. We'll see if we can help clear it up for you. Oh, that was the end. Sorry. Okay, I thought I had more questions than that. Okay, anyway. And then you rate the Kahoot. Kahoots are really cool, in my humble opinion, because it's an electronic way to have a little fun. I have students begging to play another one, and they don't care what the topic is. They just want to play them. And it's a free resource. I love the word free. Too often we make students check their electronics at the door because we can't control them as well, which in some ways is necessary, but in other ways it's good to learn how to incorporate them so that they can have a different experience. This game, by the way, another way to play it, I would have had you get up and walk to A, B, C, D corners, but if I had done that, I would have needed to allow more than 20 seconds for each question. And I knew that Gary would get upset with me if I went past 5:15. Okay, so keys to self-respect. They begin with God plus me equals a whole person. Without God, we are incomplete persons. Help children, students, feel significant to God and to important people in their life. Help them develop competence in many areas of life. Recognize their accomplishments. I used to love to be part of the Christmas pageants and all of those things, and I was luckier than most kids because I got to do a Christmas pageant at school and a Christmas pageant at the Adventist church and a Christmas pageant at the Wesleyan church. And one year, my mother, unbeknownst to me, invited the Adventist church pastor and the school teacher, who happened to be his wife, to come to our performance of the Christmas pageant at her church. And they came. Imagine that, an Adventist pastor going to a different church. But they came to recognize the accomplishments, and it meant a lot. Concentrate on developing realistic goals. Help them develop power and control over their life. Communicate with love and support. You don't hand over the keys to your car, even if it's a beater of a car, to a 7.5-year-old. You have to train them before you give them power and support. You don't expect them to soak it up naturally. Okay, it's all about communication. We're going to look at communication. And so I just had to share this little clip with you. I hope you enjoy it. We need sound. Where's the sound? Gotta have sound. That's on. This is on. Okay. All right. So we're going to start over. We're going to go full screen. I'm going to turn my volume all the way up since I can't get the other volume to work properly. And
the sergeant only speaks French.
Does it come through?
See, and now this other cop here, he speaks French and German. And this fellow, he speaks German and Spanish. So he's going to ask the questions and we'll translate them to you. Bueno. Wo haben Sie das Geld her? ¿Dónde toma ese dinero? When you get the money?
I got it from a man on the street, but I didn't know it was counterfeit.
Me lo dio un hombre en la calle
ridiculous. Do I look like a counterfeiter?
Esto es ridículo. Yo me parezco una falsificadora.
Sie sind verrückt. Ich bin nicht machen Geld.
Es ist die Lehre, der voll manier. Yo soy inocente.
Ich bin nur schuldig.
Je suis innocent.
Bien. Si elle rend l'argent, elle peut s'en aller.
Gut, wenn Sie Ihre Restaurantrechnung bezahlt, kann sie gehen.
Bueno, si ella le paga de vuelta al restaurante, ella se puede ir.
Good, if you pay the restaurant bill, you can go. Ole!
Where's the word?
Okay. Communication is huge. Whether or not you are communicating in a language that the student or the child gets is another question. Sometimes I have talked with children and I have said things like, "You were being rude." And they look at me and go, sorry, hold it, stop, thank you. We don't know what you're talking about. We weren't rude, but communication between people is not always understood in the same way by each person. So 7% words, 93% nonverbal. Okay? People that study nonverbal communication tell me that it's the facial expression. I had one student at Southern who came to me and said, I've been told that when I'm concentrating that I have a really weird look on my face, and I just want you to understand that I'm not upset, I'm not angry, but when she was really concentrating, it was like... And I looked at her face and I was going, well, thank you for telling me, because if I hadn't known, I would think that I had just stepped on your feelings or something. Tone of voice, facial expression, eye contact, posture, gestures, touching, distance between people, loving and supporting nonverbal communication. Now, I do this little thing with the students at Southern, and I come up to a student, and none of you are close enough, but I will pick out a Hispanic student in the classroom, and I'll come over and I'll stand like this, and I'll be talking to the rest of the class, and the student's just looking up at me like, okay, yeah, uh-huh. But if I get that close to most of the Caucasians, well, Hispanics are Caucasian, but the white people in the room, they're like, ooh, space bubble, because different cultures have a different size of a space bubble. Gestures, touching, distance, we talked about that. So, what are we saying with all this? Communication is not always perceived in the same way that the person who thinks they're communicating intends it. And that's something that we need to be careful about, and we need to teach our children and students how to use a remote, how to communicate positively. So here are some communication do's. Soft tone of voice. Have you ever noticed that in the heat of the moment, when you get really upset with somebody, you tend to talk faster and louder? But if you drop your voice and you use a quieter voice, my daughter told me once, Mom, when you do that, I can't stay mad at you. And I'm like, yes. Soft tone of voice, smile, look interested, lean toward the child, get down on his or her level to, how would you like it if somebody was always towering over you? So to look them in the eye. Keep the distance close, use open gestures, communicate with love and support. It takes practice, but it's worth it. How to make decisions. Decision-making is something we all have to do. Yesterday I mentioned the high priest's breastplate and the Urim and the Thummim.
Wouldn't it be nice if one says yes and one says no, and that way we would know exactly which way we're supposed to go? But God put our Urim and Thummim right up here. He used the very specific yes-no with people that had been slaves for like 400 years. And they didn't know how to make decisions. First, collect facts. Then, test the facts. Weigh the facts. Which way, the pros and the cons. Pray about the decision. Wisdom comes from God. There is a lesson that I teach all of my intro students about making decisions, and it's called the least attractive alternative. Has anyone heard of the least attractive alternative? So you have two alternatives. One of my students is facing this week. He has 2 schools, one in Arizona and one in California, that is interviewing him for a music job. He said to me, I really don't want California. I said, go anyway. Okay, so two places, right? So which one? So you say, okay, God, here is what I would really like, but if you want me to do this, I'll do it because you said so. Meanwhile, you put all your energies into preparing for the one that you would like, and when God closes the doors and closes the windows and leads you back to the last choice, then you say, thank you, God, for letting me know, and I'll do my best wherever you send me. I can relate to that because I spent 14 years in Southern California. And I like Southern California now. I didn't before. It's all city. From the time you crest the mountain in Barstow all the way to Santa Monica. It's all city. Encouragement. Let your child know that you love him and are proud of him. Affirm your child. Respond sensitively to your child's difficult choices. Notice progress toward a decision. Express confidence. And guide toward a decision without being autocratic. What's autocratic? Like authoritarian, like I know what's best for you, child, and you're going to do it or else. Okay? Handling mistakes. This is huge. Because a lot of us beat ourselves up over mistakes. We don't need extra help from teachers and parents. My daughter is like this too. If she makes a mistake, she beats herself up. So I've learned that it's futile for me to come down hard on her because she's already hashing it out in her mind. Don't berate. You should have known better. But also don't be too quick to rescue. Sometimes they need to experience the consequences of their choices and their mistakes. Allow natural consequences to take over. Be sure your child knows that you are there to support and encourage. I had a couple of boys in 7th and 8th grade that decided that they really were bored, and they started making spitwads. Before I knew it, there were spitwads. And I figured out who did it. And I pulled them aside and I said, it's your lucky day. I don't have lunch duty this week, so you will bring your lunches and you will join me at 12 noon, and we will have lunch together. They came in all goofy and happy, and I said, okay, you have 10 minutes to eat your lunch. I knew they would do it in 5. You have 10 minutes to eat your lunch. And then I handed them an empty Kleenex box and a stack of scrap paper. And I said, I want you to fill this Kleenex box with spitwads. And they were, oh, this is going to be so much fun. Yeah, okay. 20 minutes later, they didn't have any more saliva left. And I took a pair of chopsticks and I said, this one is too fat. It will never fit through a Bic pen shooter. You all know what a Bic pen shooter is. You take the ink out and it shoots spitwads wonderfully. Okay. This one, it's not wet enough. It won't stick once it gets out. This one is too wet because it'll stick inside the Bic pen shooter. And I took about a third of their spitwads and threw them away. I said, I'll see you tomorrow at lunch. I put the paper and the Kleenex box on top of the file cabinet. The next day they came back. By the end of the week, it was not a full box of spitwads. And I said to them, gentlemen, this is called grace. I'm going to let you go now, but I want to tell you that if I ever find spitwads in my classroom again, I will know that you are responsible, and you will come back and finish filling the Kleenex box. Didn't have another problem with spitwads. They told their friends, no more spitwads. Fast forward, the next fall, September comes around. I had 7th and 8th grade mixed. So the 7th graders had become 8th graders. And I hear this girl on the front row. She's elbowing the kid next to her, and he says, "What are you doing? Stop. You don't do spitwads in Laughlin's class. Don't you know what she does?" Never had another problem. Also, I never had a problem with the trash around the wastebasket. Have you ever noticed kids ball up their papers and they shoot baskets, right? And then they fall short, and then you have a ring of trash. Anybody seen those in classrooms? You know what I'm talking about? So I said, look, I don't care if you shoot baskets, but if you miss, it means you need practice. So then you have to go and get the missed wad of paper and shoot it 10 times into the wastebasket from the same place that you were standing when you shot it the first time. Because obviously, if you missed, you need practice. The rest of the year, I never had problems with trash around the trash can. And if somebody missed, they would look furtively around, pick it up, and throw it in really fast and go sit down, hoping that I didn't see them. Sometimes I did, and sometimes I didn't. But even if I saw them, I didn't mention it. Okay, so natural consequences. Many people today are ruled by their feelings, not by self-discipline, organization, order. Okay, feelings. So self-control and moderation are things that I think all of us struggle with. I know I do. As a kid growing up, if you had a first helping of food and you really liked it, it was a blessing to the cook's heart. If you had seconds, because that meant the food was good. So I believe in blessing those cooks' heart a little more than I should. Okay, have you heard of the marshmallow test? This one is a test that they did with preschoolers. We'll see if we can make this work.
By a guy called Walter Michel. The idea is you give young children a marshmallow and say you can eat it straight away, or if you don't eat it and hold on for 10 minutes, you can get a second marshmallow. It's all about delayed gratification. And Michel,
I'm sorry.
good at the marshmallow test,
Stop.
went on.
Okay, what did I do wrong? Picture, go away. And now? There we go.
On to have more successful lives. Now we're going to see whether the test works just as well with children of our own generation. We've got Celia, who's 6, and we got B, who is 4. I'm going to give you a marshmallow. If you want, you can eat this straight away, or you can wait for a bit until I come back into the room and you'll get a second marshmallow. Okay? I'll leave it up to you. I'm going to leave the room for a bit. Bye-bye.
She's praying. Either for strength or a blessing on her marshmallow. Minutes is a long time when you're 4.
Okay, girls, how did you do? You haven't eaten yours. And what happened to yours, Bee? Where is it? What, it's there in your tummy? Is it? So you couldn't wait for another one. So you, as a reward, get another marshmallow. What do you think of that? Tasty?
Okay, so that's kids. What do you think would happen if you did the same thing with adults?
Okay, here's the deal. There's a marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll have another marshmallow for you, or you can eat it now, and you only get one. And when I come back, I'll give you two, okay?
Okay, I remember that I'm not supposed to actually play you the sound for this one quite yet. Yeah? No, it's not scripted. I like this one. She's funny. Okay, so this guy figures out of sight, out of mind. So she's just like making a pattern in her marshmallow. A little bit at a time, kind of like a corn cob.
How'd you do? Oh. You did good.
Hard is still hard.
You wanted to eat it, right? Well, I told you I'd give you another one. Now you have both.
Okay, so self-control. Even when you're an adult, it's not always easy. So, yet we expect children a lot of times to have self-control, but do we teach them how to have self-control? Do we give them the tools that they need to know about self-control? Okay, there. So, hi, Lake Haluska. When I am, Lake Junaluska, sorry. When I am self-controlled and moderate, what does it look like? I'm in control of my feelings. I don't stamp my foot and get mad. I eat what's good for me. Uh-oh. It's the cooks that's their fault. And how you react to your feelings. Yes. Yes. Right. You can control your thinking. And you can control your acting. Yes. Keep my life organized and scheduled so I can get things done. I can wait for something when I know it's better to wait. I don't have to buy everything I see at the mall. I felt so good the other day. I walked into a store, walked around, picked up a couple of things, walked out without buying anything. I am determined to remain a virgin until I get married. I think even good things can be done to extreme.
The other day, here in the food cafeteria dining hall, they had falafels. Oh. It was hard to not go to an extreme because I liked them. God's view of self-control. God made us with the ability to think and feel. He gave us the ability to think and decide. The right thing is not always the easy thing. He wants us to be self-controlled so we can live godly, upright lives. He's right beside us, helping us every moment, every day. Keys to self-control. These are for the younger children. Concentrate on one or two important lessons at a time. Make the limits very clear and be very predictable in your response to testing the limits. Be generous with your praise of self-control. This is for the young ones, the very young ones, even preschool age up to kindergarten, maybe first grade. One or two important lessons at a time. Don't be overwhelming. Older children, establish a daily schedule with regular times for everything you need to do. Model self-control and moderation in your own life. That's huge. My husband tells me that it was useless to tell the children to clean up their rooms because I hadn't cleaned up mine. Okay. Help your children. It's okay. He said it nicely. Help your children learn to manage themselves and their time. Use reasoning when you discipline with most children. There are some children, like we mentioned the other day, that every time you come up with a reason, they will find an excuse. And so reasoning with them doesn't work. Teach your children to step back and think before they act. That's hard. It's harder for some of us than others. Some of us are good at thinking before we act, and others are much more impulsive. Don't give your children too much too soon or too easily. I had a conversation with a checkout lady the other day, and she said her kids are always bugging her for stuff when they go to the store. And she said, do you need it? Are you going to die without it? No? Okay, get a job and earn it. And I said, well, that's great, because you can always tell them, hey, I've got some windows that need to be washed and some dishes and some laundry. Let them earn it. For adolescents, with your teenager, develop specific guidelines for key areas: driving, dating, sexuality, money, drugs, alcohol and tobacco, personal appearance. Communicate your desire to help your teenager move toward independence. I started giving my children an allowance when they were in elementary school. And then I said, and you are responsible for paying half of your own clothing that you need for school. You're responsible for paying half of your shoes. And we had a whole list of things that they were supposed to do with this money, and that's why they got a generous allowance, was because they had an envelope for clothing and an envelope for this and an envelope for that. And quotable quotes, we're not going to go through those, but the quotable quotes, remember, we said the other day that if you're working in a public school setting or if you're working in a place where you really are not allowed to talk about God, if you quote others, you're welcome to quote the Bible as well. You can't base everything solely on the Bible if you're in a public sector. So we throw some of these in for those of you who need that. And then nature trails. The gerbil would not eat more than it needed and hid the extra seeds. Wow. I wish I could do that with some of the food I've been eating this week, because I'd love to hide it for later. But sharks, when they aren't hungry, they leave things alone. So finding things in nature that speak about self-control and moderation is a good way to go. We have about 8 minutes left, according to my watch. And if you have questions, if you have comments or concerns, or if there's something that we went too fast and you would really like to review again, we can do that. And while I'm taking those questions, I'm going to put up, because I see some people that either haven't been here for a couple of days or may not have been here before, and I want to put up the page where you can go and find
all of the PowerPoints and all of the information. Okay? So for those of you that need this page, it's Padlet.com. And for those of you who are listening to an audio recording, Padlet.com, Padlet, /Laughlin/values. And there's my contact information. And this Google Drive folder, if you go here, when you're connected to the internet, you can just click on the blue letters and it should take you to the Google Drive. And if it doesn't, here's my contact information. Get a hold of me and I'll fix it. You will find all of the PowerPoints, even the very long ones that I've had to cut down once or twice to make it into the time frame that we have. Any questions? No, ma'am, I didn't. This book was written by my mentor, my advisor from Andrews University back when I was a freshman in college, Dr. Donna Hobenicht. She wrote this book. It came out in 2000. It's currently out of print, which means if you can find a copy, hang on to it. You can find it on Amazon, and you can find it on AdventistBookCenter.com. There are still some copies floating around. But that's what the whole week's presentations are built around about a third of the information in her book, because I had to whittle it down. We don't have 2 weeks. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about peer pressure and how to peer pressure proof your children and students. Say that 3 times fast. Peer pressure proof. It's a challenge. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.